All right, let me check the audio really quick. Make sure everything is working. All right, let me check. All right, we're in business today. In case you have not seen yet, we just released a new podcast today. Please definitely check out the newest podcast I have with Rhett Wiseman. This guy right here, great guy, great coaching program, and he's a real deal. Check him out. He has tons of gems based on his experience helping over, man, he's been a part of over 3,000 units nowadays. So definitely check out the new podcast on Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. He's got some amazing information and help you debunk some of the myths. I think it's going to be really, really valuable and worth your time. All right. So today I'm looking at 35204, just a little bit west of Birmingham. Let's look at some more deals. Trying to get more acclimated with the market in this area. This property looks like it was recently renovated for the most part. It looks pretty turnkey. Yeah, these are great finishes. Looks like they already renovated the outdoors. Let's see, I take a quick look at the street, see what's going on. I think that was the street. Nothing's going on there. Nothing's going on there. Just quick walk around this area. Let's see what's going on here. A little bit more quiet. This home is all boarded up. This church, all boarded up. I love that. Don't know if it's been renovated yet, but let's see. Oh, looks like it's gone now. Huh. Oh, someone wants to demolish it. Look at that. It's like not there anymore. Good to know. Maybe just some development going on. At least he took it down. Okay. No giant red flags, but just remember, Birmingham is not a market that you want to, how would I say it? You do not want to be in Birmingham on a wrong street. Sometimes the crime score data is very off. It's really a street by street neighborhood, so just be a little bit careful. Okay. So for this property, let's see. We're in county. Is it in Jefferson County? I believe it is Jefferson County. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the fair market rents, and we're in Google HUD FMR. Click on Access to Small Area FMR. Look up FY 2024 FMRs. Go to state and county, and you are going to see by zip code, by bedroom count, what the rent ceiling is. So for a 3-bedroom is $1,240. For a 4-bedroom is $1,350. $1,240 and $1,350. That was a 3-bed, 35204. Yep. And this is going to be a 4-bed. Usually there's a little bit of utility allowances in there. So let's go ahead and get the market rents next. Now, the market rent is important because we always want to see what is that the right address? Yeah. Go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, and you're going to plug it in. The podcast is called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. Thanks for asking. All right. So today we got 3 bedrooms. There's only 3 units in 3 bedrooms. That's a little off. That doesn't sound right. Only 3 units. Let's see if I can see anything for 4 units. Okay, much bigger sample size. So I wouldn't trust that number before. For some reason, it might not be pinging the right sort of data points. But for 4 bedrooms for 25 units within a 2.24 mile radius, the rent is $1,092. So I'm going to make sure I write that down. 1092. 1165. 1259. And then 1878 for the county. 1878 for the county. All right. Now that we have those numbers, these are the numbers I'm going to use. Now, when I underwrite this deal, I'm probably going to use closer to like 1,100, maybe 1,200 max, but I'm definitely not going to use 1,350. And the reason for that is because of the rent reasonableness test. Okay. The rent reasonableness test essentially states that you cannot charge more rent to an unassisted unit. Essentially, it just means that you can't charge more rent to a Section 8 voucher holder simply because they're a voucher holder. All right. So if I use, let's say 1100, let's just do 1150 for kind of right in the middle, and for my rental assumptions, because that's the lower of the two when you compare the rent ceiling of 1350 to the market rent of roughly 1100. Okay. All right. Now that I have those rents, let me see if I can get some more numbers here. So for my property taxes, it's going to be 81 bucks. I'm going to put this rent in here. Property taxes, 81 bucks. My insurance is going to be 116 equals 116. I'm going to multiply that by 2 just because I know it's going to be a little bit more expensive for a insurance premium on a rental property. All right. Now I'm going to plug in the rest of my numbers. So this property, I'm going to assume it's in pretty good shape. Like nothing is going to get damaged. I might put aside a little bit of money for 1879 square feet. So I'm going to go to my rehab calculator. I'll just put aside a little bit of money for the roof just in case I can't see anything. Some exterior money to clean up the exterior for $500. I might do 18, what's the square footage? 1879. I'm gonna divide that by 5. Maybe I'm just gonna assume like 20% of the house needs to get painted, but the flooring looks pretty good for the most part. So $3 a square foot to paint the place, and I might replace the 2 toilets with like a high pressure flush toilet, and that's pretty much it. I'm assuming everything else is working. The hot water heater is still there. The HVAC is still there. There's no termite issues, so that gives me roughly around $5,000. I'm setting aside $5,000 just in case anything happens. So I'm gonna link this renovation number here to this number. All right. And for this property, I'm going to do about 25% down payment. So equals that, the asking price, multiplied by 25%. So that's my down payment. I do not have any arrears, do not have any more assignments. I got 2.5% for closing costs, $4,800 for the renovations reserve. I got on this property, looks pretty turnkey. So I might lower this to about 8% for maintenance because it looks renovated. I'm going to have 10% for property management. I got 5% for the vacancy here. And then I'm going to assume that I'm going to finance the rest of this. So that equals this loan number equals asking price minus the down payment. And that's going to give me my finance amount. And right now, I'm going to assume the interest rate is going to be roughly 8.25%. This is going to start 4/1/20, just 4/1/24, just so it calculates. Okay. Now, using this number, this would result in a negative cash flowing deal because at $1,150, I'd be losing $180. So let's write these scenarios down. 4-bedroom, if my rent was $1,150, I would be negative $180 cash flow, which would be a, whoops, get the spec centered, minus 180. And my cash on cash return is negative 4.7%. Now it's assuming a purchase price of $150 with a $4,800 rate. I'm just gonna put $5,000 just to make my life a little bit easier. And I was assuming 25% down, and the mortgage interest rate was 8.25. All right, so that's not a deal because you'd be losing money every single month. Now, what if this was $1,200? Let's just be a little bit more optimistic. I'm definitely not gonna go higher than that because that's a little bit high. Even though it's renovated, you might be able to make a case, but you still be negative 141. Okay, you still be negative 141. That's still a negative 3.7% cash and cash return. So now you get to play with the numbers. You have to think about, well, what price would it be a deal, quote unquote, right? Assuming everything else stayed constant. Okay, if I went ahead and maybe I offered this property, let's see, $100,000. Notice what happens to this number, right? This cash and cash return. This now becomes a 5.21% return because your PITI has dropped significantly, because your finance amount has dropped significantly to $75,000. Okay. Now, if you keep going down, let's just say $80,000. Boom, now you're at 11%. So if let's just say my target was 10%, this is probably going to get me close to 82.5. Boom, there it is. At 82,500, this would be a deal for me personally, at least. Again, I'm not soliciting any investments. I'm not giving any investment advice here. I'm simply showing you what I'm doing every single day, just doing the work, doing the boring stuff. That's it. I'm just being a boring guy. And unfortunately, this is what it takes. If you ever want to buy 1,000 properties, chances are you probably analyze 10,000 properties. And this is how you eventually develop buy box, right? So at $82,500, that would make this a deal using the current rent assumption of 1,200. If it was 1,150, you might be at 80 grand, right? Let's do 1,150. Okay, if I change this to 1,150, and now it's $80,000. Great, 9.6. Exactly what I mean, right? So if it was 1,150, it would be 80 grand. So hopefully you guys are able to follow just exactly how you determine your buy box, because you're assuming your rehab is still 5 grand in this entire scenario, right? Just remember that. And your cash flow is 215, and that's a 9.6% cash on cash return. 9.6. Boom. There we go. Now, if you want to get really creative, well, what if you had 1,150, but let's say your interest rate dropped? Let's say you have someone that has a great credit score and they'd be willing to sponsor a loan and they can get it for 7.5%. Well, at 7.5%, now you might be willing to pay up to 85 grand again, or 82,500, even though, so you can still pay 82,500, even though your rent is at 1,150, which is very different, right? 82,500, even though your rent is 1,150. Very different, right? So you saw how your gross rent went. Before we said, hey, you need 82,500 if your rent was 1,200. But if your rent was 1,150, another way to make it worse is, well, what if you use your own credit and you sponsored a loan? Well, if you got a loan for 7.5%, then now all of a sudden it's a deal, quote unquote, for yourself. Just think that through. That was all 8.25. Update those scenarios so you guys can all see it. 10.1, and that was a cash flow of 232. So that is how I like to show how the interest rate might affect your buy box, your buying criteria, and what your maximum purchase price is, depending on what your cash and cash requirements are. Some people might invest in certain areas where they just break even because they believe it's a high appreciating market. Birmingham is likely not going to be the highest appreciating market in the world. So just be careful, right? I never underwrite with appreciation because that's speculation, and that's just not my forte. Okay, so now that we got all these properties lined up, I'm not sure if you guys actually want to see what it might result in if we decided to do a creative finance deal, but let's see. Was this property purchased recently? Was it finance? This property was purchased for $188,000 in 2000. That don't make no way. I don't believe it. In 2000, but they just renovated. Yeah, they were just fully renovated in 2022. So they probably, this is probably like a flipper or an investor that's holding on to it. Let me take a quick look at it. Let's see. Let's see if we can go to PropStream. Let's see if we can see if there's an underlying loan in place on this property. Give me 1 second. Oops. Go to PropStream, you click on the details section. And then if there's underlying mortgage, there should be a mortgage and transaction history right here. And you can see that it was bought in all cash. So someone bought this for 21 grand. They own it free and clear. So I'm assuming they probably borrowed some money or used their own cash to buy and renovate the entire place. So, well, what if they can't sell it at its current price? So this property has been active for only 6 days. So they're probably not going to be motivated to do a creative finance deal. But let's just say you want to see what sort of creative finance terms you can offer on this deal. So at 150 grand, let's say your down payment stayed the same, but let's say you lowered your, everything else stayed the same, but you lowered your interest rate on the loan because the seller's going to finance all of it to 0%. Okay, now this could be a deal. You could say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'll give you 4%, assuming I can only get $1,150 for rent. I would be cash flowing $352. I'll still give you $150,000, but you just got to give me the terms that I need to make this work. And at 25% down, I'd be willing to give you principal only payments, which is also equivalent to 0% interest rate. Let's say you went into 10%, and then the seller wants like, oh no, I want some interest rate. 3% ain't gonna work, 2% ain't gonna work, 1%. Yeah. You do 10% down. So that's another scenario. You do 10% down with a 1% interest rate, and your rehab is still $5,000, but you're still able to give the seller an offer of $150,000. So this seller probably won't go for it right now, obviously, because he's only been on the market for less than 6 days. But now you know what if your quote unquote return criteria for cash and cash is 10%. Now you know exactly what offers you can make on this deal, assuming your rent is $1,150. Okay. If your rent was a lot higher, then you might be able to afford more. It just all depends on your own research and your own market and your knowledge of the market. Okay. So this will work. I can offer, hey, if I have to go out and get financing and I had to use my own tax returns, a full doc loan, etc., to get qualified, I'd be willing to give you $82,500. But Mr. Seller or Miss Seller, if you're willing to become the bank, I would be willing to give you $150 as long as you finance it to me at principal only payments. And you can always negotiate a balloon and whatnot. But these are all the different scenarios on how you could change up scenarios so you can actually figure out what you're changing in each scenario and how do you truly figure out whether or not something is worth a while of your time to pursue further. Because for this one, I wouldn't even send out a contractor. I just don't want to waste the time there. This is all about avoiding burnout, right? Just remember that, guys. It's not about underwriting a deal all the time. It's just about getting the reps in. And just remember, all you have to do is just spend 18 minutes a day, every single day, analyzing a deal. And this is why I do this live. This is why I do this together. And really, it's intended so that some of you can just copy my homework. Just analyze the same deal I looked at today. It's on the market. It's a real property, not making it up. Analyze the same deal I'm looking at today. Put it on your own YouTube channel. And over time, you're going to become a little bit less afraid about what you're doing. And especially if it's your first time getting into real estate, learning how to spot a deal, or better yet, learning how to spot what is not a deal, that's really critical. Because as soon as you figure out what's not a deal, and now all of a sudden, hey, you know that in this zip code, 35204, anything that is a turnkey for 4-bedroom under 82,500, like that would be a deal. So now all of a sudden, next time you see a deal that's like under 90 grand, you might look a little bit closer, right? And that's how you determine your buy boxes. That's how you build up the reps, and you eventually figure out, boom, how do I spot deals like that? And it all comes from repetition, and it all comes from your local market knowledge. And then after a while, you will build out your teams. You will know who your contractors are. You will know who your property managers are. And that's why I brought on contractors themselves onto the podcast. So I really hope you guys are able to leave a review for our Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing podcast. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. Please, I would really appreciate you guys can leave a 5-star review and just share it with your family and friends, because this is how we solve the affordable housing problem together. When we lift each other up and we help one another, this is how we do it. I hope you guys can copy the homework I did today. Just go back, find one part, explain it better than I did. And all of a sudden, you can copy more. And I have 187 videos up on YouTube right now, just analyzing deals. And you can see how choppy I was in the beginning. And eventually it just comes like clockwork. And sometimes I get a little inconsistent, or sometimes I get off track from what my normal process is. But I experiment. Truth be told, I experiment to see, hey, does this flow better? Does this way that I explain it sound better? Is this the point I want to carry across? And you will learn. You absolutely will learn how to get better. And when a partner asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? Well, you point them to your own YouTube channel at that point in time and say, I know this is not a deal because I've looked at 187 deals. And they could just be all deals that were on my YouTube channel, but you copied and put on your own YouTube channel. That's okay. You still did the work. Still had to lift up the pencil. In this case, you got to open up the camera and talk on a mic and open the spreadsheet. So just DM me on Instagram at investwithkenhe with your email. You want to copy the spreadsheet. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have been given the spreadsheet by the folks. And I just modified it just a little bit to fit what I need for underwriting Section 8 rentals. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. Happy Thursday. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends today. Excuse my voice today. I'm still a little under the weather. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.